Hello, my lovelies. I'm Jenny O, the author with no last name, and it is November. And November means it's National Novel Writing Month. And I hope you're having good luck on your manuscripts. And if you're not, today I want to talk about writer's block and how we can overcome writer's block. So the title of today's presentation is Help! I'm Stuck! Getting the creative juices going again. You might not think about this, but writing is work. Writing is mental labor. Your brain is all lit up and it's working very, very hard for you to be able to get the ideas out of your head and onto the screen or a piece of paper. And you might not think about it as much because you're sitting in a chair or sit at your computer or on the couch or whatever you're doing, and you're just typing or writing, and you think, well, this isn't work, especially in comparison, say, to a physical labor job or something like retail, which is emotional labor plus physical labor. However, I'm here to tell you writing is work, and it's okay to feel tired when you're done writing or as you're writing. So self-care when you're writing is important. So the next ones are, you can say, well, Jenny, well, duh. But I understand when you are writing, because I have been there lots of times, that sometimes you just get so focused on what you're doing that it becomes very, very hard to stop, even if you're blocked. Okay, you would rather go scroll Tumblr or Twitter, whatever, than actually take care of yourself. So you just don't think about it, or you've thought about it over and over, you just can't find that button to go and do it. So you need to eat something. Your brain is like a little biological squishy computer, and food, sugar and fat in specific, are the electricity for your brain. So you need to go and eat something and continue to fuel your brain. So if you're looking specifically for brain food, have some fish, eat some strawberries, get some avocado, have some cheese, that type of thing. If you want just something that's not quite so healthy, have a Snickers. And the other thing is, because your brain is like a computer, it's this biological computer up in your head, sometimes it will malfunction. The electrons will not flow properly. They go in all sorts of crazy-ass directions, and your brain needs a restart. So go ahead and take a nap. Whether it's 20 minutes or 2 hours, taking a nap is how your body shuts off your brain and turns it back on. And this will clear out your short-term memory, and let those electrons get flowing in the right direction again. Okay, but maybe you're not hungry. Maybe you don't need a nap. Maybe what you really need is a change of scenery. So go for a walk or take a shower. I don't know why this works specifically, but it seems to help. So if you go for a walk, what happens is your body starts to get moving, and this will help your brain get moving. Maybe your brain just wants to focus on some pretty scenery for a little while. Maybe you want to pet some dogs, whatever. Or maybe your brain has something else that's been working on in the background that you didn't realize it was working on. And this walk will help your brain be able, to focus on that thing in the background and solve that thing in the background. So when you come back, you can focus on your manuscript again. Or you can take a shower. I don't know why this works, but something about the falling water lets, your emotions get wash away and grounds you, and also allows your brain to think in a different setting from being constrained at your computer or sitting on your couch or whatever. Taking a shower, again, lets your brain have a whole bunch of different thoughts. And it might be, your manuscript, it might be a project at work, or it might be just something your brain is chewing on and you just need to work through it. And when you get out of the shower, you'll feel nice and clean, and you maybe will be able to work on your manuscript again. Or maybe you're like me, and sometimes your brain just has something it wants to chew on that's outside of your control. It's anxiety, self-doubts, fears, whatever it is. It's probably outside of your control. Maybe it's inside your control, but most of the time I found that it's things that I have no control over, and but my brain has latched onto them for some reason, and they don't want to think about anything else. So when this happens, and this is hard, I'll admit that it is hard to do this. When it happens, focus on what's eating up your brain for 5 minutes. Just let your brain do what it wants to do, because obviously your brain has a reason for this. So indulge it for 5 minutes. And then you have to forcefully divert yourself from whatever your brain is thinking on. This could mean, pushing back and working on your manuscript again, or this could be you need to watch a movie, or you need to read a book, or you need to do something else that's not your brain dithering over something that you can't change or fix, after 5 minutes. And every single time your brain wants to get back into that cycle, after you've taken that 5 minutes, you have to forcefully change it back. That's why it's hard, because brains like patterns, brains like cycles. So you trying to change that cycle is a lot of work. Or maybe you need to create a musical playlist for your manuscript, because music can set moods, it can be inspiring, it can, help you think of new scenes. Music is great ambience for when you're writing and you want to set a tone for yourself, as you're writing your book. Okay? Maybe you already have a playlist. Maybe you're ahead of me there. Or maybe you need to add some new music to it that, you found while you've been doing other things and that are inspiring to your story. Just change it up a little until, you find something that gets your brain moving again. But maybe it's not actually you. Maybe it's the manuscript. I don't know if that's a relief or not, but maybe it's actually the manuscript. So I found this piece of advice on Tumblr, and unfortunately, I cannot remember the username for the life of me. And also, unfortunately, given the way Tumblr is set up and its terrible search function, it's highly unlikely that I would be able to find it again in a short amount of time. So I found this on Tumblr, and the user got this from a professor, their professor. So their professor was saying, if you are stuck in your book, go 10 lines back, and most of the time, that's where the problem is. So 10 lines back could be, 10 paragraphs or 10 pieces of dialogue, but lines. So a line is when you hit enter and break your document. So a paragraph is 1 line. So something 10 lines back is blocking your narrative stream. It might not work. It might work. Many times, yes, it is just, 10 paragraphs back, you just did something that's not, it's just a little off, and, you can't, you're trying to work around and it's not working. So you just need to change it and move forward. Another thing to think about, though, is the through line of causality. So what is the line of causality? The causality is the cause and effect. So there's, like, I believe 3 different things that we can think about in cause and effect. So first off is your story has a set of dramatic beats. So you need to think about, you are here, but you need to get to the end of the story. So what has to happen next to get to your desired endpoint of the story? So the through line of causality there is, I did X, Y, and Z, and now I need to do A, B, C to get to the end. I know I should have said A, B, C, then X, Y, Z, but hey. So that is the normal view of the through line of causality. And this is why I like outlines, because an outline will allow me to create a, timeline of these thematic or scene beats in my manuscript and let me, keep myself on track. But I know there are people who don't like outlines. So if you do not like outlines and you are stuck, think about where you've been and where you have to go and what has to happen to get where you want to go. Another through line of causality is cause and effect. So this has happened, and now this has to happen. So what has the character done, and what's going to happen in response to what the character has done? So simple cause and effect. Another line of causality is something that comes up in genre fiction. This is a very specific to genre fiction, but not always. So it's kind of like this unwritten written rule that if your character in genre fiction is really good at whatever ability they have, you have to show them doing that ability right first before you can break it or have something go wrong. So if your character is the best assassin or best, mercenary, soldier, warrior, princess, whatever they are, if they're really, really good at it, go back and ask yourself, have I shown them being good at it? Okay, and now I can show them being bad at it. Okay? So that's the through line of causality. 3 types of cause and effect. Of course, there is always Murphy's Law for getting unstuck. So Murphy's Law is generally known as what can go wrong will go wrong. So what can happen that, will totally completely gum up the works for your characters in the story that can move the story along? This provides an obstacle, it provides conflict for the characters, it makes them think they have to find a way to fix it, get out of the situation, whatever it is. It allows for wacky hijinks type of thing. So it will get them out of wherever they are in the story and into someplace else. So you can figure out, once they get out of this sticky situation, where they can go next. In a different scenery, and hopefully, by getting out of the sticky situation, you'll be able to come up with what they're going to do afterwards. The thing about Murphy's Law, though, is after a certain part of the story, it becomes a crutch, and it begins to make me personally, as a reader and as an editor, worry that these characters don't know how to take action themselves. So Murphy's Law is really effective in the first act, in the second act, or the beginning and soggy middle, But by the third act, where you're reaching that conflict point somewhere in the second act, the characters need to make a decision. They need to do something, rise up, take action to move the story along, versus having something constantly go wrong in their lives from an outside force that, is Murphy's Law. Just so that they will feel effective and the ending will feel satisfying and earned. But if you're still stuck in the first or second act or at the beginning and soggy middle, Murphy's Law is always a good option. Now, the other thing is, here's a bigger edit, which you can always come back and edit later, but this is a bigger edit. Maybe you're in the wrong point of view. So maybe you need to change the point of view of your story. If you were in third person, maybe you need to change to limited third or first person. So a third person story really has a big broad scope, and maybe in the outliers of your story and what you're saying, maybe you're giving too much away. So it would be better to move into a limited third person or a first person point of view. This is really especially true if you're doing anything related to like mysteries. I am not fond of limited third or first person because I personally tend to work with big groups of characters, like ensemble stories. And so I like to keep myself in third omni because that gives me, a chance to show things that aren't, necessarily always with the same person. However, at the same time, I do have at least one or two projects where, yes, I'm in limited third because the story requires me to keep information to myself, So it's the difference between watching like an ensemble TV show and reading a mystery novel. Or maybe you are too limited. Maybe the reader needs to know things that the character doesn't know. And so you need to change from first person to third omni, or limited third to third omni. So just think about the scope of your story and whether or not broadening it or intensifying it will help change the story. Now, you don't have to go back right away and change everything because that will take too long. You can just change the point of view from where you are in the draft and keep moving forward. And then when you go back to edit it later, you can read it and decide, is this point of view working better or is this point of view working better? And shift the entire second draft to that point of view for, then give it to a development editor to help you tighten it up for a third draft. Another thing you can do is if it's, you're in a specific scene, you can ask yourself two questions. What is the character thinking and what are they feeling? Now this goes back to the line of causality. So maybe you want to do this in the manuscript itself. That will help you add words. Maybe you need to open up another document and do it there. But what the character is thinking and what they're feeling will help you understand how they make decisions and how they choose to act, which will be different than other characters. So maybe you might have to do this for 2 or 3 different characters until you can figure out what is going on. So for instance, in one of my books, I can't remember which one, I think it was Serpent Smile. In Serpent Smile, I think, Gideon had taken a shot glass of water and dumped it over Savannah's head. And it did take me a while for me to figure out how Savannah was going to get Gideon back. And it really did come down to me working through how she was thinking about it and how she felt about it for her to come to this decision of how she was going to attack the problem of her revenge on Gideon. And this involved stealing his lollipops. But how she stole his lollipops and how she returned them to him was the real issue. So this can, either be, once again, maybe you need to take a shower, or maybe you need to take a nap, or go for a walk, and, let your brain chew on it, but ask yourself, what is the character thinking, and what are they feeling? But sometimes, or as this says, often, sometimes writer's block comes through trying to punch a hole through a dead end. Sometimes you're just stuck in everything you've done. You can't find a way out of it, which means you have a much, much bigger problem than a few writing exercises can solve. That means there's a bigger overall structural problem or character problem, or you've written yourself into this corner and you have to go back and change something in the very, very beginning in order to fix what's going on now. So if you find yourself beating your brains out, as John Long says in the Writer's Little Book of Wisdom here, and you can't find a solution, it might be you need to set this to the side and start over. Now, if you're doing Nano, just even starting over can add to your word count, okay? So don't worry about that. The point is, to write 50,000 words in a month, not kill yourself over, I ripped myself into a dead end. I cannot get myself out of this corner. I don't know what to do. Just, you have to go back and start over. And this is what happened with Dawn Princess. I was working on Dawn Princess, and what I'd done was I'd rescued a dragon. I had her go and heal a dragon. And I was writing the story, and I finally turned to my editor and I said, Becca, something's wrong. I've lost all the tension in this story. She looked at me, and she lets me figure this stuff out on my own, which I thank her for a lot. And she said, yeah, I think you're right. And she goes, I think it was saving the dragon. I said, you're absolutely right. I've lost all this tension because there's no looming threat of this dragon coming, and whether it's the female dragon or her mate, the male dragon, there's no threat of this dragon coming and, getting mad about them having the baby dragon. So I went back and I was like, okay, how does the story work if the dragon still remains unhealed for, the rest of the book? And it worked. Much, 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 much better. I was actually able to get to the end of the book and finish the draft and be like, yay! So sometimes you paint yourself into a corner and you have to go back and you have to restart. And that's okay. So let's sum up. If you are having writer's block, take some time and give yourself some self-care. Give yourself some love. Eat something, take a nap, take a walk, take a shower. Let your brain chew on whatever it needs to chew on for 5 minutes. Create a music playlist. Whatever you need to do, just give yourself some hugs. Let you take care of yourselves. If it's the manuscript's problem, go 10 lines back. See what's there. Maybe that's the part that needs to be changed. Or think about your through line of causality. Think about the cause and effects. You need to do this to get to the end. This has happened, so this has to happen. Or this, your character had to show themselves being good, so now you can break it. Okay? Murphy's Law is always an option in the first and second acts. If you're there at the third part of the act, I worry. But what can go wrong will go wrong. Give them an obstacle to get out of their situation, and hopefully by solving that obstacle, they'll be able to figure out what they're supposed to do next. change the point of view. If your story is not working in first person or third limited, change it. You know, if it's in first or third limited, change it to third ami. If it's in third ami, change it to first or third limited. See how that changes the story. Is it better? Is it worse? Always ask yourself, what is the character thinking and what are they feeling? And that will help you determine what the character would actually do. And then sometimes it's just you've painted yourself in the corner, something went wrong way back in the manuscript, and you're at a dead end and you don't know how to get out of it. So what you need to do is start over. Okay? So I hope something in there, if you're stuck in your current manuscript or you've been stuck before or whatever, will help you get unstuck and end this writer's block, because writer's block is so hard. You know, it's so frustrating. So, you know, maybe one of those pieces of advice or guidelines or plans of attack will help you get out of your writer's block. And if you're writing Nano, good luck. Happy writing. Have fun. And take care of yourselves. Don't overdo it. Try to take care of yourselves. And if you aren't doing Nano, well, happy writing anyways. Thank you for listening. Bless. Take care. Stay safe. And I'll see you in the next video.